What's worthwhile? Healing mind, body, and spirit. I'm Ramsey Zimmerman. I choose peace of mind, vitality of body, and joy of spirit over stress, exhaustion, or overwhelm. Together, let's explore and pursue the many ways to build holistic health and wellness.
People think health coaching is just, they're going to tell me not to eat a Big Mac. It's like, no, that's not really the vibe. It's helping you become the person who can really understand your body and make choices that map back to the results you say you want. Because there's the people who go into health coaching who are like, my doctor told me to. And it's like, you're not going to get results. And then there's the people who have a specific reason. It's like, what's your why? Like, why are you doing this? I want to look good in a wedding dress. I want to have sex with my husband again. I want to get a promotion. And I know that my brain fog is preventing me from like being as productive as I could be. Like there always has to be this bigger why.
Hey there, it's Ramsey here. That was Chelsea Mcleod. Chelsea is a self-described corporate dropout turned hormone health coach for high achievers. She's a certified integrative health practitioner with clients from Sydney to Amsterdam to New York. Chelsea focuses on finding and fixing root cause imbalances in the body that are common in high-performance people. We spoke about the importance of knowing why you should put in the work to make lasting changes, how men and women each struggle with hormone imbalances and how fixing the foundations can rebalance hormones, and how she has seen amazing transformations in many of her clients. I found Chelsea to be both down-to-earth and filled with direct first-hand knowledge. If you are a busy top achiever and want to stay that way without driving yourself nuts, then this is the episode for you. Let's get after it. Hey, Chelsea, how are you doing today?
So good to be here.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm really glad you're here. Thanks for taking the time to do this. I know you're busy working with clients. You work one-on-one with high performers, corporate leaders, athletes, things like that. And you're pretty well qualified to do that, I'd say, because you spent about a decade in that fast-paced corporate world before you jumped over into integrative health coaching. So what was that like? What was that corporate world like for you? How did you like it? How did it like you?
You know, it's funny because I look at it and I think there's nothing I regret. It prepared me exactly as it should have to do what I do now, but it didn't come without some pretty big sacrifices. Obviously, I'm sure you're no stranger to this, but just spending a lot of time on planes, a lot of times on Zoom calls, which that hasn't changed much, I will say. But at least now I enjoy my work, right? And really care about it. So a lot of travel, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of, crossing different time zones because I'm obviously American, but I live in Sydney because I was heading up a team in APAC. So I would wake up and have notifications from all over the world and all this crazy stuff. But it did help me become the person, but I had so many different physical challenges as a result of just chronic stress and burning the candle at both ends.
So what did that do to you after a while, all that burning those candles at both ends?
Oh, we love burning the candle. I was never one of those people who had like a rock bottom moment where things were just terrible, but I just had this dull hum of exhaustion. And it just felt so normal to me because that's all I knew. Because for a decade, that's just how I felt. I would sleep probably 5-6 hours a night. Couldn't really fall asleep before 1 a.m. Was up at 7. Like I got shot out of a cannon, running around like an idiot for 20 minutes, running out of the house with, 3 beverages in hand, listening to a podcast on 2x speed. And, all the while I was doing all the things, right? Like I'm very active. I was a college athlete. So getting to the gym was never a problem. Eating sweet green instead of McDonald's was never a problem, but I just didn't feel good. I was always searching for energy. My skin looked terrible. I was in a bad mood a lot. My team kind of knew to never talk to me before 10 a.m. because I hadn't fully woken up yet. I just wasn't nice to be around. And, I think it had implications for things like my dating life, things like my social life. I was doing all the things and on paper it looked really good, but I just didn't feel like my best self. And so for me, it basically required me being in the Melbourne lockdown in Australia to actually slow down and evaluate really look at my nervous system, look at how I was eating, look at all these different factors that were affecting how I feel, including just the buzz of chronic stress of being in a leadership position in corporate.
So then how did you start to make a change? Like what was that like? What did you start to do differently? What sort of, where did you pursue answers to, trying to make yourself work again, feel better again?
It's funny because it happened on accident for me. I was always looking on WebMD and listening to podcasts and, searching for all this information, which was great because I had gotten a test that said I was pre-diabetic. And so that kind of kickstarted my journey to be like, okay, if my HbA1c is 5.8 and that's almost diabetic, I need to start reducing my sugar, started looking at things, but it was a very elementary view, right? Because I didn't know what I know now. And so it was doing things like cutting out carbs and doing keto and doing all these dumb things that like were kind of giving me the result, but not really. And it actually took me going to a skin specialist because I was going there for some skin problems. And she kind of asked me about my hormones. And I didn't even know what that meant. But she asked me about my sleep. She asked me about what I was eating, different inflammatory foods, what the timing of my meals, asked me what supplements I was taking. And so she got me on some foundational supplements, changed the way I was eating. And I obviously did it for the skin because no one wants to be in a boardroom or like going on a date with bad skin. And so I was doing it for that very kind of like vain reason, right? But that's when I started to sleep. And that's when I started to have real energy again. And so it's almost like she had to like Trojan horse me. Like you get in and like you're something else, and then you get a different result over here. So I see that kind of paralleling with a lot of my clients as well, where they come to me for weight loss, but they leave a totally different person with like not only 15 more years on their life, but also just actually feeling and looking the way they want to.
Yeah, absolutely. So what kind of training did you do in order to kind of start your to be able to start working with other people? Because you certainly got a lot of that. You learned a lot of that on your own first through your own research. Then you learned a whole lot from the treatment that you were describing there. But what kind of classes and stuff did you do?
I went back to school to become an integrative health practitioner. And what that looked like is, level 1, you're doing all the classic stuff, really understanding the different systems of the body and how they work together, how to teach someone how to eat, doing a lot of the stuff that you would learn in NTA, looking at diet and different factors. And then in level 2, what was so cool is we got to get into functional medicine lab testing. So now I can do that with clients. I can send them an at-home test kit where we can look at things like their minerals, their vitamins, their hormones, obviously looking at adrenal function, gut issues, because people just don't understand anything about gut issues and just say, oh, it's IBS. The doctor told me there's nothing I can do about it. And that is just so not the case. There's incredible testing that we can do to figure out exactly why someone is having discomfort and do something about it. So there's always a root cause answer. We just have to figure out what it is. And I'd found that these tests just get so much cut through and you just get such faster results because you know exactly where the imbalances are in your body.
Yeah. So what are some more of those kind of examples of things that you see quite a bit?
I see a lot of high cortisol, obviously. I work mainly with people like yourself, obviously people who are, they're active, they're moving around, they're quite stressed. And so I see cortisol, which is that key stress hormone. And the problem with that is elevated cortisol affects all the systems in your body, because when cortisol is high, which is basically part of your stress response, it's saying like, we're going to take all the resources and functions from other parts of the body and focus solely on keeping you alive. So you go into survival mode and your digestion is downregulated, your sleep is downregulated, your libido, all these kind of non-essential, quote unquote functions don't function as they should. So your immunity. So that's where I see a lot of, I see weight gain around the belly, which is often associated with the hormonal imbalance for men and for women. Irritability, changes in skin, changes in mood, hair loss is a big one for men and for women. gut issues, so bloating after meals, constipation. So, if people aren't having one bowel movement a day, it's a sign that there's either a gut issue or a nervous system issue. And anxiety is a big one. I mean, people are just so anxious and they kind of wear it as it's a personality trait. But when you look at the biochemistry of anxiety, it's like, oh, with a lot of this stuff, it's literally just an imbalance. Like your body has too much of one thing and not enough of another thing. So you're anxious, which is manifesting as high cortisol. So those are the main ones that I see with clients.
Yeah.
There's also odd ones like, women who want to get pregnant, men who want to boost testosterone, any number of different reasons.
Well, that sounds like all the things. It's like, you just ticking that off. I'm just imagining, like, certainly with myself, I imagine a lot of people are just like checking off the list. Yep, got that one. Yep, got that one. Wait, these are all connected. Mm-hmm. These are all related to exactly the same thing. But, it seems like stress often is unavoidable. If you're gonna... if you're going to keep your job, if you're going to continue to move up the ladder, if you're going to continue to be a high achiever, if you're going to win games, you're going to have to face all of this stress. And, so I guess the question is it all or nothing? How can you continue to be at the top of your game, but then also, not suffer the effects of, the stress that we're putting ourselves on?
The way I think about it is we have to build skills and be clever to navigate a system that is stacked against us. Because the reality is if you're in an office and you're commuting and you're doing all the things, it's challenging. Like it's going to be more challenging for someone doing that who's crisscrossing the country and is working 12 hours a day than it is for someone who's working from home. You know what I mean? Like there are things that we have to meet people where they're at, but there is so much you can do to be clever and to be aware of how different things are impacting you in a way that you probably didn't before. And so a lot of people think health coaching, and you're going to learn this as well. It's like, people think health coaching is just, oh, they're going to tell me not to eat a Big Mac. It's like, no, that's not really the vibe. It's helping you become the person who can really understand your body and make choices that map back to the results you say you want. Because there's the people who go into health coaching who are like, my doctor told me to. And it's like, you're not going to get results. And then there's the people who have a specific reason. It's like, what's your why? Like, why are you doing this? And if the why is strong, it's like, I want to look good in a wedding dress. I want to have sex with my husband again. I want to get a promotion. And I know that my brain fog is preventing me from like being as productive as I could be. Like there always has to be this bigger why. And when people have that, it's so much easier to attach to the process because it can be an overwhelming process, right? Like you do have to be willing to make changes. But what I always tell people is like, we have to start with the big buckets, right? Like instead of like the little pebbles, we want to get the big boulders. And it's like, okay, so for this person over here, like we have James, who is a C-suite at a publicly traded company, super busy. He's not really moving much. His diet is absolutely terrible. So let's just focus on whole foods 80% of the time. I always tell my clients 80% whole foods, 20% soul foods. That leaves some margin for enjoying the stuff that you want to enjoy. So it's not like everything comes out. You're not eating carbs for 3 months. It's like, that's ridiculous. We have to kind of take these baby steps. So it's like, maybe as we transition to whole foods, we're making these swaps over here for like, okay, James, like what are the key things that you're eating every day that are going to be really hard for you to give up? Oh, okay. Tortillas. All right. Got it. Let's do these ones over here that are like gluten-free. Try those. And then we'll transition you to something else after that. And then could you give me 20 minutes of walking after every meal? Just to like get your blood sugar down, get moving, get your stress levels down. Like what are those little things that are going to make a really big difference? Because at the end of the day, like we can't control the stressors that are coming in always, but we can give ourselves inputs that support our stress response. So that includes, supplementation, vitamins, minerals, high quality food, because there's a lot of shit we're doing that is further elevating and stressing out our body. It doesn't even have to do with like the typical stressors that we would associate with things that actually stress us out. We got to look at inflammation. We got to look at inflammatory foods. How much you're sleeping is going to stress your body out even more if you're not sleeping. So what are the controllables that we can actually control?
Yeah. And I think too, that why is really important. That mindset of, this is, we're going to frame this up as a challenge, and these are my objectives and these are my goals, and this is what I'm going after, and translate a lot of those same attitudes and practices that people got to that level of success with in the first place, translate that into achieving your health goals, and set those up aside along with all of the other things that are important in your life to achieve.
That's right.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about hormones. We should talk about both women's and men's hormones separately. Let's talk about women's hormones first. So what happens in terms of like hormonal imbalance for women who are highly active and doing lots of things, but maybe they are not doing other things and they're getting themselves into trouble as a result. So let's talk about what happens to women's hormones.
A staggering statistic is that 80% of women have a hormonal imbalance, and most of them don't know it. And
wow.
That is particularly evident in Western countries where women are overperforming. They're working. They're also raising children. They are not taking care of their bodies because they don't know how. Like, no one's taught this in school, right? We go to gym class and we have the food pyramid, and it's just, that's not it. And so there's these women who are...
The food pyramid.
The food pyramid. Do you remember that? 12 loaves of bread a day.
Oh, yeah. Yes, we need grains and pasta.
Yeah.
Just more grains and pasta. That's all you need.
Maybe some Lucky Charms in there. But women don't know how to take care of themselves. And this is coming from one who is still learning, right? And so for so many women, they're putting other people first. They don't understand how to take care of their bodies. And they also have these external stressors coming from everywhere, right? We have things like microplastics. We have toxins from different food, from different beauty products, all this stuff coming into our body. So we're just overloaded, right? And so for women, what I typically see, obviously there's a bunch of different hormonal imbalances in women, and they're more complex than they are in men typically, right? So when cortisol is elevated, it's going to downregulate all women's sex hormones. So that means her progesterone is going to drop. Sometimes her estrogen will drop, or she'll become slightly estrogen dominant, where the ratio of estrogen to progesterone is just not where it should be. And that's where a lot of the symptoms can come up, as far as, water retention, puffiness, migraines, low progesterone could lead to changes in period, trouble getting pregnant. And so there's so many different manifestations of women's hormones. I get a lot of PCOS clients, a lot of women who are struggling with like elevated testosterone, and also elevated cortisol levels come along with that. So we've got that going for a lot of clients. Most of my women are probably 30 plus, because that's where a lot of the imbalances start to come into play. But these days I'm also getting some messages from college students, and I'm like, fuck, I was dealing with a lot of this in college as well. So it starts quite early. And there, especially for a woman who's been through a stressful life event, a very traumatic event, had a really difficult childhood, who, a lot of women who were raised in homes where they kind of had to overperform, or they were exposed to, any instability in the household. I see imbalances all the time with younger women. And so for a lot of these people, it's, we got to stabilize the body, right? But we also have to peel back the emotions and look at some of the emotional work of the different parts of their emotion and personality that have good intentions, are there to protect them and stabilize them when their nervous system is feeling overactive. But we have to look at the inner work as well.
And do you go through like a series of testing to sort of determine which hormones are, specifically are out of whack? And then what kind of actions do you take to sort of get those more into balance?
For women, there's a lot we can tell just based on symptoms. So we go through a really rigorous assessment when a woman comes through to really understand what are all the symptoms you're experiencing? What are the two most difficult ones that we really want to address quickly? And I always start with food. Food is by hands down the most powerful one. And so we'll fix what time they're eating, what they're eating, when they're eating. And we will also do things like detoxing to make sure that we're removing stored toxins that are offsetting hormones in the first place. And we will do, depending on the symptom, we will do hormone testing, gut testing, look at everything as a system to make sure that we can find the unique imbalances, because sometimes while food and lifestyle is the core, like we can't do anything without that. That is the foundation. There are, therapeutic doses of supplements that can really expedite this process. And so that's what lab testing allows us to do, is to really laser target it and kind of just give it a little spark plugs to accelerate.
Got it. So how about we, let's talk about men's hormones now. So, I think in a lot of cases, we men get to an age where all of a sudden we can't, rely on our bad habits anymore, and things start to catch up with us, and we start to slow down, and we get to carry around a little extra weight there in the middle. Speaking for myself, of course. So do you see a lot of that, and sort of what and how is that often related to things like testosterone level, and what do you do with guys like that?
It's super common, right? And especially if someone does have cortisol elevations, they're quite busy, moving around a lot. About 10% of men have a testosterone imbalance. I rarely see high testosterone unless someone's on HRT, in which case it's like superhuman levels of testosterone. But with most men, it's, a testosterone deficiency. And a lot of men will go straight to HRT. When if you give me 30 days, I can double a man's testosterone output if he has low testosterone. And it's really simple. It's foundations. For men, obviously, we can do the testosterone testing and look at things like, bioidentical DHEA, which is typically low when a man has testosterone. And instead of adding testosterone, we just add some DHEA supplementation, and they are cruising and they feel amazing. DHEA is the precursor to testosterone. So you can basically make more of it when you supplement with DHEA. Looking at things like sleep, obviously, that's the testosterone engine. So if you're not getting those high quality hours of sleep, especially starting at like 10 p.m., it's going to significantly decrease testosterone output. So we want to focus on not just when you're sleeping and how long you're sleeping, but looking at the quality of sleep. So a lot of my male clients will look at things like an Oura ring to see, how healthy are your sleep cycles? Are you getting that deep sleep? Are there any indicators of maybe like sleep apnea that could be affecting your sleep? And making sure that they're sleeping in a really cool, dark environment. And really, I always tell people that we have to like prime our bodies for sleep, right? And that starts with our morning routine and also our evening routine. So really building those rhythms of success to make sure that they're getting the quality of sleep they need. Obviously, we look at movement, we look at strength training, we look at really cleaning up the diet in the same way that we do for women, making sure that protein is adequate and high quality protein as well. And then, just stress management. There's supplements we can use. There's different things like breath work we can use. And as far as nutrients, we got to look at zinc. Zinc is a big one that I see for male clients who are working on testosterone, vitamin D, magnesium. And then making sure they're getting a lot of healthy fats like avocados and olive oil.
That all sounds great, actually.
Yeah.
It's nice that the answers sound appealing.
It's not too bad.
It's not really miserable stuff. No, it's pretty good stuff, like being able to sleep and eating good food and, things like that. That's encouraging. Have you had any noteworthy kind of transformations, without using any names, obviously, but are there some good sort of success stories that you can share to sort of give people an idea of what's possible?
Definitely. I'll give one male and one female, right? So one of my first clients, actually, when I was just a baby coach, was the SVP of digital when I was working at a publicly traded footwear company. And my boss's boss and I knew each other from our last company, and he heard that I was doing this. And he was like, hey, I'm really interested in working with you. And I was like, okay, what's going on? It's like, my sleep is bad. I have panic attacks. I am carrying about 45 pounds of extra weight. I don't feel good. And he's a brilliant guy, like very smart, very people oriented. So was a great leader of teams, but he was just not firing on all cylinders. He didn't feel and look the way he wanted to. So we cleaned up his diet, obviously, focused on moving the way he could, right? Like, it wasn't Orange Theory classes every day, but it was, getting in the gym a couple times a week, going on walks, cleaning up. He would usually just order a sandwich from the cafeteria, but we looked at different ways to get vegetables and lean meats and reducing some of the, processed food. We looked at his coffee intake to make sure that he was limiting it after 12 p.m. and did some liver detoxing as well to make sure that he was releasing some of the stored toxins. And I mean, he had an incredible transformation. He is almost unrecognizable because he lost all 45 of those pounds. In fact, it was at record speed. I mean, he lost that weight in probably 3.5 months. Wow. Not a normal amount of weight to lose, but when you're working with hormones and you're very targeted and precise and you're looking at things holistically, weight can come off really fast. And so I would say, 20 pounds of that came off in the first 30 days, which is crazy. And, the panic attacks started to go away because he was truly nurturing his nervous system. And he has now quit his job, started his own online business. And the requirement and prerequisite of doing that was making sure that he was, your body is your business. And if you're serious about having success and wealth and being able to run a team and being able to be successful in your job, you have to fix your body. It's just a non-negotiable. Yeah. Because, the way we do one thing is the way we do all things. So his transformation was really incredible. On the women's side, I mean, there's too many to count. I've worked with 200 women to date, and I'll share one story, but this is so common. Like, this is a very common result in my program. But I had a client who was a people leader at LinkedIn. She had a toddler at home, English expat living in Singapore. So it's interesting. I tend to attract a lot of expats because I am one, but expats have a very unique situation because they are inherently away from their home and their people, and they've had massive instability in their lives. So I see a lot of issues with expats, which totally makes sense because their nervous system is hugely destabilized by making these moves, and that they're away from family. So there's this feeling of belonging that's not there. And so for her, it showed up as after her first pregnancy, she gained 40 pounds. And she's a small girl. She's 5 foot, like 5'1" maybe. She's very small. And so this was a significant amount of weight on her. And the brain fog was crazy. Like, after pregnancy, it just never went away. She was extremely irritable. Her and her husband's relationship was strained. She was doing the best to be the mother that she could be and the best to show up at work, but she just felt very split and not like herself. And so she heard me talk at a LinkedIn seminar for women's hormone balance and kind of slid into my DMs, and she was like, I need to do this. Like, I need to do this now. Can you help me? And I was like, yeah, say no more, fam. Come on in. So we did a lot of everything I've described so far. And I mean, she's lost 35 pounds in the first 20 of those came in the first 3 months. She had just miscarried before starting, and now she's preparing for her next pregnancy and feeling much different, obviously. Has completely changed the way she's mothered. And she's now, it's so funny. It's all these people are starting businesses now, but it's almost like, she started her business after getting healthy as well. And so now she just booked in 100 clients into her first workshop. So, this stuff, when your energetic capacity expands, so does your wealth and your impact. And it's exciting because for me, it's not really about weight loss. It's about the broader impact. It's almost like I'm helping these leaders expand and grow and help more people. So it makes me feel good about the ripple impact that it's having.
Yeah, well, what I'm hearing from you, what it looks like to me is that idea that, people who are high performers but don't have sort of control of their health, they're missing out. Like when you do get control of your health and mind, body, and spirit, then it opens up a set of whole other gears that you can then use. And I'm sure that it opens up your possibilities and it changes your priorities. And at that point, you're like, man, I can do even more than I was doing. I was just doing it in such a different way. Like I was able to do that, but now I'm able to do so much more. That must be really satisfying to work with people like that and sort of see them blossom kind of as they go.
It's the best. And that's why niching down as a health coach is so helpful. And that's why, I don't know, just working with people who do the thing, who want the result and do the protocols is just so much better, and kind of like really attracting those kind of people is really fun.
Well, and what do you see when you look ahead? You know, when you're looking ahead, you think people are kind of figuring this out? Do you think that things are kind of better now than they were 10 years ago, sort of when you were a part of that whole race? Do you feel like, things have changed significantly during that time? And, are we better off now or worse or about the same? Like, what do you think in terms of now as compared to then, and then as you look ahead?
In some ways it's worse, and in some ways it's better. And what I mean by that is like the food supply, it's just getting worse and worse. But there's also more alternative brands that are coming out with clean versions. And, smaller businesses are starting to crop up that are providing better options for people who want to eat better. I think COVID changed the way people work in the sense that there's just fewer people commuting, a lot of people working from home, which, man, that will expedite your results so fast. If you just have that time to connect with yourself, less stress of commuting, you have a little bit more control and leverage over your schedule, which is very calming to your nervous system. I think that's really helpful for a lot of people. But, as far as just overall stressors and toxins and, living within a system that's not really set up for human health and hormone health, I don't see it getting better, but I think the tools we have and the access we have to information is much better. So for people who actually want to make changes, it's so much easier. Like you can go on ChatGPT and type in, for my clients, I have a very specific list. It's a very robust list of food, right? It's called the High Vibe Food List. And it's just, here's exactly what you should eat 80% of the time. And it's not what you think. It's not what a lot of nutritionists use. It's very different. It's like, hey, can you go plug this in ChatGPT and say, hey, generate 10 recipes this week for me? It's like we can do so much with AI. And so if we leverage the right tools and have the right guidance, it's just possible to really expedite these results.
So there's more opportunities now, even though, there's lots of exposures and, chemicals and gross stuff in our manufactured food. At least we're sort of understanding that. And there's lots of opportunities to make decisions about what we want to do. Yeah, no, I think that's right. So what about you? What are you excited about? What have you got coming up that you're excited about here in the future?
Well, Ramsey, today I'm submitting my podcast to the Apple Store.
What? Congratulations.
Thanks.
Tell us about your brand new podcast to be.
Look, it's been a labor of love, but it's just going to be the raw, uncut truth with a little humor, as we do, of just practical strategies that people can use to look and feel the way they want to. It's women's focused. I'm going to be doing a men's testosterone episode that the ladies can share with their man. But it's really going to, I think there's not a lack of information out there. Anyone can go online and Google what to do insert blah, blah, blah here. But sometimes we need to hear things in a specific way for it to really land and for us to take it seriously. And so the way I see my role in this is to kind of serve as a messenger to take all this information out here that people know they should be doing and package it in a way that's actually going to prompt behavior change. And so I'm really excited about that one. And so that'll launch hopefully next week. It depends if they allow me to. I'm worried there might be too many expletives in there. Maybe it won't get approved, but it's not you, it's your hormones. And that's going to be available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
So the title is It's Not You, It's Your Hormones?
Yes.
I like it. Good title.
Thanks.
Well, that's great. How can people get in touch with you? Where can they find you online? All that good stuff.
At Healthy with Chels on Instagram is the easiest way. I also have a free ebook that I give to people who really want that first steps to start balancing hormones and releasing hormonal weight. And that's called The Busy Girl's Guide to Hormonal Weight Loss. All the things in there also apply to men. So if you're a man, don't be shy. You can get that as well.
That's good. Hey, thanks. This was really great. I think you have a great approach. And thank you for sharing so much really practical information on what's worthwhile with us. And best of luck on your new podcast. I can't wait to hear it.
Thank you. It was so good to be here. I appreciate it.
Right on. Where to go from here? Visit what'sworthwhile.net to learn more about me, Ramsey Zimmerman. And please reach out to me and let me know what you think. I don't want this podcast to be some message in a bottle thrown out to sea. I want to hear back from you. Please send me a message or an email or hit me up on X, LinkedIn, or Instagram. And please leave a rating and review for the What's Worthwhile podcast on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, or Amazon. Thanks.